guys. Okay, so I figured out while I was sitting here, my husband is at Walmart with my father-in-law and my son. So I figured I'm sitting here on the couch, baby's asleep. Why not post the second one? Okay, so this is going to be my labor and delivery story. So I'm going to kind of walk y'all through what happened. I went to my 37-week checkup and was 3.5 centimeters dilated, 50% effaced, and is -2 station. But I was that at 36 weeks too. So, what day was it? On the 18th, let's say on the 17th, that night, I was having contractions. I was timing them. They were 3 to 4 minutes apart, and they weren't painful. They were just uncomfortable. So I didn't go to sleep till about 2:30 in the morning. Took some Tylenol PM and crashed. My husband went ahead and took off that next day so that I could sleep in. I slept till about noon. Woke up. They were still there. Just same, 7-8 minutes apart. So, I called the doctor, and I said, should I go to the hospital? He said, well, let me squeeze you in. I want you to come in at 3 o'clock. I was like, okay. So, my best friend came over. She had already had plans to come over that day. She came over and took me to eat lunch. Took me out to eat lunch, and me and her just, went and ate lunch right down the street. She said it was my last supper. And came home, 3 o'clock hit, and I took off to the doctor. I had my husband stay home with my son. I was like, I don't really, they're not going to send me in. Went to the doctor. He checked me. I was still 3.5 centimeters dilated, 50% effaced, and -2 station. So he said, go home. You might be in the early stages of labor. If they get to be stronger, come to the hospital. Now, keep in mind that I live an hour away from the hospital, so I was a little aggravated at the fact that he sent me home after telling me that I was in the early stages of labor. Anyways, so I went home and was hurting, not hurting contractions-wise. I was hurting as in my pelvic area, my back, everything was just hurting. I laid down, and my husband went down the street to his friend's house who has a son that's our son's age, and got home about 7 o'clock, and about 7:30 they started to pick up. They started to pick up about 7:30, and I went in there, and I told my husband came in there to check on me. I was laying down in our bed, no TV or nothing, just laying there timing them, and they were getting a little bit closer, about 5 to 6 minutes apart. But they were just uncomfortable. They were stronger, though. I called my mom to update her and let her know what was going on. 8 o'clock rolled around, and I had to make a decision. Because our friends who my husband was at prior that day, they have a little boy that's our son's age. They are who we had planned on dropping off our son with if I was to go into labor. Since I was already having these contractions and they were consistent and they were getting stronger, I had to make a decision. It was 8 o'clock. It was my son's bedtime. He had school the next day. Well, it's 3K. It's a little preschool, but still. My girlfriend worked there. So, and her son and my son are in the same class. So I was just like, I need to make a decision. I called up my girlfriend and what should I do? These contractions are getting stronger. She said, I think you should go to the hospital. My mom said the same thing. She's like, but I need to let me know so I can know if I need to call in or not for tomorrow. So 8:30 rolled around. 30 minutes later, I walked outside, and I said, let's go. Screw it. We need to go. The worst thing they're going to do is send us home. So I already had my son's bags packed, our bags, everything was already packed in my car because my doctor told me to bring it to the appointment that Wednesday, a couple days prior. Because I have dilated to 3.5, and if you get to a 5, they admit you. So everything was in the car. We just hopped in. They were starting to get uncomfortable. Dropped him off at about 8. Okay, now I need to look at my notes. 8:45, dropped him off, and about 9 o'clock we headed to the hospital. We got there about 9:45 at night. They sat me, put me in triage. They were now to the point where I was like, wow, these are contractions. I was induced with my first son, so I really didn't know what labor felt like. They brought me into triage. The first thing they did was check me. They said, you are 5 centimeters dilated. You're having a baby today. And my heart fell to the floor. I looked at my husband. There was tears in my eyes. I was just like, oh my God, this is it. So it was exciting. Now they were starting to get painful. They admitted me at 10:30, about an hour after we got there. And I got in my room, and as soon as I got in my room, I was like, I want an epidural. Because they were painful by this point. She said, okay, well, I need to, because I know you have to go through a fluid. They have to give you at least one big bag of fluids first. So she hooked me up to my IV, my fluids, all that good jazz, and we started making phone calls, and the nurse came in, said the anesthesiologist was in a C-section, and it was going to be about an hour. So I was nervous, to say the least. An hour rolled around at 11:30 at night, and I was ready for my epidural. He gave me my epidural, and I have scoliosis, which is curvature of the spine. So it took him 4 or 5 tries to get it in. I was bawling, crying. Horrible. Absolutely horrible. My mom came up there right away because she's my mother. And by the time my mom got there and stuff, about midnight, 12:30, my contractions had slowed down from the epidural. So they asked if they could start me on Pitocin. I said yes, and about 1 a.m. they started me on Pitocin. Me and the nurse was like, she turned the lights out. She goes, y'all need to get some sleep. I hadn't slept the night before. So my mom they have a big, huge couch. This is at Memorial Hermann. The rooms are amazingly huge. So they had a big, huge couch that turns into like a twin bed. We turned the TV on. My mom laid on one end of the couch. My husband laid on the other, and we all passed out. Of course, nurses come in every 15 to 20 minutes to flip me from side to side. So that was annoying. Then about 5 in the morning, my water broke, and everything went balls to the walls. 5 a.m. my water broke, and I started feeling pressure, like a lot of pressure. Like, I don't even know how to explain it. Like I started feeling the contractions. Everyone started, I was like, something is not right. I can feel these contractions. The pressure was unbearable. Called the nurse. I was like, something is wrong. She was like, oh, it's just normal. It's pressure as long as you're not in any pain. But the pressure was so intense that it was painful, and I had to breathe through them. Let's see. A couple hours later, my water broke at 5. 3 hours later, at 8, about 8:15 in the morning, she checked me. I paged her. I said, something's not right. I paged her for the second time. I was like, these are hurting me. She came in. She said, well, let me check you. She checked me, and I was 9 centimeters dilated. I started panicking. I started crying. I was like, my epidural is not working. I can feel these contractions. She said, well, you're 9, so pretty much you're screwed. Anyways, so she had me pull my legs back, do some practice pushes, told me to stop. And then in comes my amazing doctor, whom I love him. He scrubbed up, and everything just went so fast. I was crying. I was screaming. I felt everything. It was horrible. I tore in 2 places. He came out. My doctor told me to stop, and I started screaming, I can't stop, I can't stop. I mean, I just couldn't stop pushing. My contractions were on top of each other. And I now know that it was because the cord was wrapped around his neck. My husband said that he had to push him back in and pop the cord off of his neck, from around his neck, and he flew out. My doctor caught him. So he was born at 9:25. They put him on my chest because my first son had meconium. I was not allowed to do that. They brought him straight away to the little thing to suck him out of all his airways. But this one, they got to lay Kate on my chest and started rubbing him. He was crying, but I couldn't tell. He wasn't screaming, but he was kind of grunting and crying. So she immediately grabbed him. I guess he was turning purple. I was not aware of this because I started swelling up because that's what I do. And so yeah, they brought him. They put him on my chest. They put him for about 2 minutes. Cut his cord, and then took him straight away to try to get him going again. I will explain more later on. But anyways, it was like a 2-day process. I'll explain all that in the his 2-week update. But long story short, he had fluid in his lungs. He was grunting. I guess he wasn't squeezed all the way through the birth canal, because it squeezes out all the fluid out of their lungs and stuff, and he just flew out. So that didn't really happen. Kind of like C-section babies, I guess. And I had to have stitches. Nobody made it to the hospital except for my mother. Whenever they checked me at 8, my water broke at 5 in the morning. She checked me. I was still 5.5 centimeters. So she was like, "It's gonna be a while." I mean, it was a good 7 hours, and I had dilated 0.5 centimeter. So we told my mother-in-law and my father-in-law, go home. They drove an hour up. They were like, go home. It's going to be a long time. Then she checked me again at 8 o'clock, and they were like, you're 9 centimeters. And everybody lives an hour away. So by the time I had him and we got to spend about 30 minutes with him, and everybody was there. So it worked out, but whatever. So anyways, yes. I'm drinking tons of water. I will update you guys, like I said, on my 2-week postpartum update this coming week, because I had one issue, and had to go to the ER. So, but that's my labor and delivery story. Like I said, born 9:25 in the morning. We were there for, and it was on a Wednesday, and we left on a Friday. We left on a Sunday, I think. On Sunday, yeah. I think. I don't know. My mind is boggled. So anyways, I will show you guys postpartum. This is the belly. Have a little pooch. Okay. Oh. And there's Boo Boo. Okay, so if you guys have any questions, if you want me to do in my favorites video, or next week, I already have, like I said, 4 or 5 lined up for y'all. But if you would like me to post in my favorites video and let you guys know some of the things that I have used that have really been a lifesaver, like for instance this Rock and Play. Amazing. Then just let me know. I have probably 5 or 6 things that have been lifesavers. So that I think is about it. So I hope you guys have a good weekend. I got 2 videos up at one time, so thumbs up for me, and please subscribe, and I will talk to you guys in a couple days. Bye bye.